Our commitment was community engagement, and this is kind of one of the more sort of nebulous sort of area engagements. It's hard to really kind of pin it down. But we kind of had a conversation and came up with 3 main themes. But first, we're just going to share with you some of our experiences and kind of some of what we've learned from community learning, and then dive into our themes from there.
So I'm starting off, and I'll share my experiences with working with the Reading Week project, which is my first real experience with community engagement. I've done for 2 years, and both years I've gone to inner city elementary schools and worked with children there who are ages from kindergarten to grade 3. And my first year I was teaching them about nutrition. Second year teaching them about the Olympics and making musical instruments for that. And it was a good experience just to see the world from a different perspective, from their perspective, and to immerse ourselves in a world that, for me anyways, I've never seen before, and I thought that was a really, really valuable experience.
And so my little story that I'm going to share is I'm taking a class this term called, it's AppSci 364, I believe, and it's called Campus as a Living Laboratory. So this is one of the cross-cutting themes that comes out of the Sustainability Academic Strategy. And so this course is basically taking students from all across the campus, business, forestry, land, and food systems, throwing them all together into a class, and kind of saying, here are some of the real-world issues that we're having at UBC, and also by extension in the broader community. How do we get together and use all of our disciplinary knowledge to kind of produce new solutions and figure out new ways to address these challenges? So it's really cool as we're just kind of getting started, and it's a really kind of neat model that the university is just starting out with, and I think has a lot of potential that we are going to discuss in some of our themes.
Sure. Okay, so starting with the themes, the first one we can talk about is empathy, and also about dispelling judgment. And we found out both in our cases, we realized that it's important to think from the perspective of the audience we're trying to address. So I guess in Brendan's case, it would be the environment, like the campus itself, the campus itself. And for me, it would be the students, the children. In both cases, we found that it's important to think about what could be the community, your community is asking for, what they're really needing, because we want to see what it's like to not go in with any prejudices, to overcome judgment, because we find that's a huge barrier to any changes you can cause in the world. As well, we realized that with this kind of empathy, it can't be done overnight. It cannot be done simply through one course or through one volunteer experience. And we realized something that we think that it'd be very helpful to see that starting from first year, from the very first year people are getting into university, because we start small, provide lots of opportunities for people to get involved and to see the community, see the outside world, and this might help them with our third theme, which is synergy, which we'll talk more about, and how that will help them as they progress through university and also as they become alumni themselves.
So our second sort of cross-cutting theme that we have was sort of purposeful education. So this one was kind of talking about there's so much brain capital here at UBC. There's so much knowledge, our brains are working overdrive, but a lot of times they're just kind of doing sort of abstract assignments. We're not really applying the knowledge that we have to anything. So whether it be through assignments, through class projects, or entire classes, like the class that I was talking about, just capturing some of that intellectual capital that's present at UBC and harnessing that and using it to solve solutions both here at UBC, starting at UBC, kind of using it as a laboratory to test solutions, and then once some of those solutions are proven feasible, whether it's financially or otherwise, kind of using those as a model. So we can say, hey, look what we did at UBC, you can do this too in Vancouver, in Shanghai, or wherever else it is. So 1 minute. Sorry, thanks. So basically purposeful and experiential. When you're immersed in something, you're experiencing it, you're going out into the community, whether it's a classroom or just at UBC, and you're going beyond the traditional classroom. You're learning things, you're taking in more things, and you're going to remember things better too. So our last theme is synergy, and kind of connecting all these things together at local, provincial, national, and global scales. Kind of having all of these things kind of work into whether it's global programs or just volunteering on the downtown east side, kind of having all of these things feeding into some sort of common vision for community engagement, which sum to greater than the whole of their parts, basically. And one of the places that we identified for doing this and going beyond once we graduated from UBC is the new Alumni Center. So kind of using that as a place for networking, as a place like once you've graduated from UBC, you've had 4 years here, you know a lot about how it works, and you can have suggestions for people on how they can, for professors, for administration staff, on how they can improve how UBC functions, how you can better engage the community, and just kind of creating some of those networks and having a place to do that. So we're excited to see what comes out of the Alumni Center with regards to community engagement and kind of going on after graduation from UBC. That's it.
Thanks so much. We'll open the floor for feedback and questions. One of the things that I noticed, you talked about learning a little bit, and so I'm going to quote somebody in this room, and I won't name names, but when I was a student, I heard the phrase, learning is inevitable, experience is not. Or no, experience is inevitable, learning is not. Sorry. Experience is inevitable, learning is not. And so the idea that, yes, you can go through the motions and do a reading lead project, but how do you think we ensure that students are learning from those experiences and therefore being fully engaged in the community?
I remember that in the case of the reading lead project, we had reflection times, and I found that was a really good way to just talk about it after every day, after the entire project was done, and just to go over and see how people have changed, or what people have learned, and what they've found out in their 3 days in the project. I find that, and also follow-up. I feel like follow-up emails would be helpful as well to see how if people want to be involved in future years in the same thing or more, but a greater capacity, and then just kind of gauge interest almost. I think that might. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, totally. It's great. Yeah, I think you're right. I think with the reading, I've also had some experience with reading lead projects and just with student programming in general, and the idea that you brought up of follow-up and seeing if they want to take on future leadership positions. I think that is a really great opportunity to ensure that students are learning from their experiences and not just that, fostering leadership in the years ahead as well. So yeah, some really great points you brought up.
I think it's interesting and right on to see you had and attack community engagement from directly the notion of learning, and whether that gets extended into research as the aspects of learning or student learning. I think that we talk about community engagement or community research and student learning as quite separate parts of the university, and actually, the tradition is that the community is at the root of research and learning. And so you've really brought it back to the core ideas. The university is in the process right now of developing the community strategic plan. So while the research one is launched later this month, I think March is when the community engagement plan is due. And so it'll be interesting to see, because quite frankly, I think Place for Promise goals right now around community engagements are quite surface. They don't go very deep. They talk about dialogue series, they talk about that kind of more superficial connection, and you've gone straight to the heart. So thank you for very, very good ideas.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I sort of got the whole essence of when you were talking about the Alumni Center, but the thing I picked up on was it was an opportunity for alumni to keep in touch with what was going on at UBC. And I'm wondering if there's also an opportunity there for current students to actually interact with alumni there, to maybe take on some of the opportunities of learning from experiences of people who are actually out in the world coming in. So not just a meeting place for ex-alumni to come in, but also to feed back into the university, give opportunities for existing students to actually go there, maybe present their projects, maybe be able to take advantage of some of the things that we want in that centre.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I think there's huge opportunities. That was just kind of one example that we had thought of. I mean, yeah, there's multiple levels of faculty, alumni, current students that can all kind of engage and try mentoring or whatever it be. But yeah, I mean, there's endless possibilities.
So community as in community coming back in?
Yeah, I mean, like yeah, exactly. Like one of the things that I found, like as an alumni, is other than receiving kind of like the occasional newsletters, like I really haven't been engaged with UBC. Like I'm back here now because I'm taking classes, but like when I was just kind of off and doing my thing, I wasn't really engaged at all. But if I had some reason to come back, like you were, whatever it would be, like you could say, I'm interested in talking to people about how to restructure classes so that they could be more experiential based or more service learning based. And professors could go and like say, like, oh, there's somebody interested in talking to them, I should get in contact with them. And you can bring in somebody, like a student in the class, and like have this kind of discussion like you were talking about. So whatever that structure for that looks like. But yeah, just lots of opportunities for making the alumni more engaged. Because yeah, they don't necessarily, yeah.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
It just occurred to me, from your presentation, from your guys' presentation as well, orientation and homecoming are two really major events and major opportunities to not only engage your current student base, but also to engage your alumni to integrate those two bodies. An effective orientation would probably help to orient around those first 2 points there in terms of setting a stage for empathy. And also, when you're in your first year and you're just out of high school and you're going straight into university, you're used to learning by rote. You're used to, you go in with the expectation that the university knows what you're supposed to learn. And so you go and you take your courses and you do your homework and hopefully you pass and get a degree and get a job. Once you get to your third or fourth year, you realize actually that you're in charge of dictating what your university education should be and creating opportunities for yourself. Yeah. And in fact, you've been given this framework to operate within. And some people navigate that framework more effectively than others. But if we were to address that kind of philosophy at orientation, it probably helped to energize people a lot more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was one of the things we talked about too, is just kind of shifting that learning curve. Like you're saying, you don't learn that until third or fourth year, but if you learn that and you're immersed, and that's kind of the UBC culture from the moment you arrive and you're kind of thrown in, that you can decide what you want to do with your education. I mean, just think of if you have 2 more years to do all that stuff than you would have otherwise.
Yeah.
So.
And it's not just about finding courses to take, it's about having dialogues with faculty members and volunteering and getting jobs and creating opportunities for yourself while you're still a student, and not just waiting for the golden ticket. Right?
Just along that point, I was going to say, right away, I think of the UBC motto, it's yours. And so that's a really, I know that with orientations with Imagine and Gala and all the other orientation programs, we do try to instill that in students, but sometimes it does take a little while, and so it's good to see programming and initiatives around the university that help students who may be overwhelmed in their first year kind of ease into things and transition to being the leaders, the strong leaders that they probably were in high school, here again in a bigger setting. So yeah, really great. So any last comments or questions or feedback for our last group? Thank you so much. Thank you so much.